we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there. This is all of our great shows. And if you can, please give us that 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, if you could like, share, subscribe. Subscribe today to get the latest notifications on when we go live on the air with the latest Pop Culture Cosmos, PC Multiverse, or any of our great things that we have today as part of what we do here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Also, check out our website, popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. Of course, everything involved with the Happy Hoarder. Go ahead and subscribe to the Happy Hoarder today on social media. And of course, check out the main site as well, happyhoardercollectibles.com. And if you do so, and you support all that, and you like all that, and you follow all that, it is sincerely appreciated. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos with my longtime good friend and fellow host of this fantastic show. It's a good man indeed. You got to go ahead and check out what he's doing, not only at Humanica Media, but also as well, of course, happyhoardercollectibles.com. He has advertised both in recent weeks, and he's all over the place in Texas, making sure that you find the best in collectibles each and every time out. Plus, you could go online and order your dream collectible today at Happy Hoarder Collectibles. It is, of course, my good friend. It is Josh Peterson. Josh the Great, what's up, man?
What is up? Yes, thanks for the plug. I appreciate it. We will actually be out at Colossal Con next weekend if you're out in Round Rock, Texas. So come check us out.
Let me just ask you this. Is it just going to be a thing now where you just have an event and if you just add a con on the back end of it, then it sounds cool?
Yeah, you know what's funny is like I was looking at
Pop
conventions out
Culture
here.
Cosmos Con? How about that?
Hey, we could do that. We could definitely do that. We know enough people. We could do it.
Yes, we could do that.
But no, it's funny. I was actually looking at like a list of conventions out here. Like they it is exactly that. There's like Toy Con, Action Figure Con, Funko Con. Literally everything has a con out here.
Well, there's like Retropalooza, I think, your way as well. Is that the one in Texas as well, or is there
Yeah,
a different
Retropalooza.
one?
It's
Okay,
out
so
in
that's the
Dallas.
only one that they don't put a con on the back of it. So.
Yes,
But
yeah, exactly.
But I will say it's going to be a great show. But please, if Josh is in your neck of the woods, in your area, selling his wares, he's got a ton of great collectibles. You can go ahead and always check out what he's doing online over, of course, wherever you get your social media at the Happy Hoarder. And of course, like I said, please check out what he's selling today online at happyhoardercollectibles.com. Well, we've got a great show coming up for you. A lot of things to talk about, including an anniversary of one of a much beloved film for Josh and I. Star Trek Strange New Worlds just ended season 2, and I'll share some thoughts on that. Also, as well, THQ Nordic had a digital showcase. Does it put them in the limelight as a AAA publisher? We'll see. We'll talk about that here in a sec. Red Dead Redemption is coming to the PlayStation 4/5 and the Nintendo Switch, but a lot of people are mad, really mad, and we'll tell you why. Also, as well, Madden. Is there any magic left for Madden, or is it just another game? We'll talk about that. And Wonder Woman. She has a lot of controversy with Gal Gadot because of not what her movie is coming out this week, but her future in the DC universe. That's on the show as well. But first, my friend, this weekend at the box office, it is still dominated by Barbie with another $33 million. It is now closing in on $1.2 billion. There's a chance now at some point in time it will probably surpass the 1.4 million, I believe, that Super Mario has
That's
already
right.
gained.
Yeah.
So there's a possibility, a very good possibility. I think it's probably going to do it where it will pass and become the number one movie of the year. Oppenheimer is closing in on $700 million for an R-rated movie. That's absolutely fantastic, especially a movie that's not going to cater itself to general or family audiences like Baby Barbie or TMNT. chipped in with
Yep.
another 15 million here domestically, and now it's approaching $100 million worldwide. I don't know if you could call that a success that as of yet, Josh, because it is an animated feature that is lower cost for an animated feature, but and it also has the Rogen, Evan Goldberg, touch on it. So we'll wait and see. But I think you could so far say it's doing okay. Meg 2 dropped, a while, but overall, my friend, we've got a bust down there we're going to talk about here in a minute. But your thoughts so far on what went on this weekend?
It's funny. Oppenheimer has been like a slow crawl, but it's still doing fairly well. So that's cool. I mean, because what last week it was, further down the list here.
Yeah.
Um,
It was number three,
Meg
but
too.
last week,
Everyone kept
number
saying
two.
that, like, well, sorry, what was that?
It was number three last week. Now it's number two. Yes.
Yeah, right. And then you have Meg 2, which everyone's like, "Oh, this is like a complete and utter failure," but people are still going to watch it just because it's like something fun to watch. It's a popcorn flick, from what I understand.
Internationally, it's done absolutely great. It's at 250 million, 200 of which is overseas.
Yeah, and finally with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, like, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the rankings right now, and I'm curious if they had not put that out on Disney Plus so soon. I'm curious if it would have made it to $1 billion.
It kind of lost steam though last month in July once Barbie and Oppenheimer. Once Barbenheimer came out, my friend, and then even Mission Impossible and Sound of Freedom before it, it kind of lost steam and it kind of lost its way before then. Maybe don't you think?
Yeah, yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, a little. Yeah, you're right.
But still, I think that's got to be considered a disappointment. Even though, how can you say an $800 million windfall worldwide be a disappointment? It's because it's those one of those Marvel first week of May movies, which you and I both know is supposed to be the marquee week of the year for the movie scene, and unfortunately, it didn't pay off as $1 billion for Disney and Marvel. I will say the movie was good. I got a chance to see it recently on Disney Plus, but I don't know where yet. I'm going to go ahead and still decide where I want to put it in my list in my pantheon, the MCU films, and I'll update that on the site, popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. But yeah, overall, I don't think it was a bad film at all. Believe me, I think of it much higher than what we thought of GOTT 2 when it comes to that.
Yeah, I haven't actually had a chance to watch it yet. I keep like meaning to, like, I want to sit down and watch it. So,
I know Volume
but
2 left a bad taste in our mouths.
Volume 2 did leave a bad taste in my mouth. I don't know, honestly though, like Marvel is I'm not excited to watch Marvel stuff, and I know that there's a lot I need to just sit down and watch, but I'm having a hard time motivating myself to do it.
Well, there's superhero fatigue. That's clearly understandable. I mean, we've seen the clear effects from that with the diminishing returns you got from everything from the DC universe to even what we've seen with the Marvel universe, putting out products that are not exactly well received or well loved. GOTG3, even though it wasn't a billion dollar worldwide money hit, it was still some, again, 800 plus $1 million, not too shabby. Also, the fact that it is probably going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, superhero movie of this year, which again is going to be something. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse did well, 6 to 700 million there, but again, I think people are tiring out of the superhero genre just a little bit, or even more than a little bit.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I think, despite what Bob Iger had, his comments on the strike, he did have a good point when he was saying that there's just people are losing interest in superhero movies because there's just too many things being pushed out. It's just not special anymore.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And after Secret Invasion underwhelmed a lot of audiences out there, and I thought it was okay at best. Unfortunately, it was very underwhelming. And what we're seeing out there with Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania, we're seeing it with The Flash, we're seeing it with Shazam earlier this year. So you're seeing all those different movies in the superhero genre not playing very well. And the problem is that does not bode well for the Blue Beetle, which is actually getting positive reviews, but I feel sorry for this movie. This is the little movie that I thought that could bring some nice returns, but now it's in the middle of August. Now that Barbie has done so well, Blue Beetle, despite its love from the critics and the fact that Warner Brothers thought so well of it, they took it out as a Max original and decided to go ahead and put it out in theaters. At this point in time, I don't think it bodes well for Blue Beetle.
Okay, I have a theory. Okay, I think that Blue Beetle is going to do really well
I hope so.
because it's one of those movies that doesn't just have a like an entertainment impact. It has a cultural impact too. I think much like Black Panther did really well and it had a huge cultural impact. And I think
Well,
that
it is the first truly Hispanic superhero film, so I'm
right.
hoping I'm wrong, and I'm hoping it will actually do great at the box office.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying though. Like I think that it will have that cultural impact. I think that it'll hit the Hispanic audiences and they will go out and they will support this movie. I'm going to go support this movie because I think it looks cool, but I don't think it's going to do as poorly as everybody says.
I hope not. I hope not. I was just coming off the poor returns for The Flash and the poor returns for Shazam. It's hard for me to get into this DC projects because, as you have told you before, with the way James Gunn already has a universe coming up on the way, all of his own making, everything that comes before it, you don't know whether it's in or it's out. And we even talked about this week with what we're seeing with Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot was doing the rounds, interviews, and all that she taped. Most of them were taped before the strike because she has a actual movie that's now playing on Netflix in Heart of Stone. And she did a lot of promo work in advance of it before the strike. She did a lot of promo work for it. And one of the things she said was that she was told, or that she's got a great idea at that time, that she was going to be part of Wonder Woman 3. Then we hear word from the studio to the major outlets, Variety, Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, IGN, saying that she's not going to be part of the future of the DC universe. So even that much tells you right there how confusing it is about what's coming before this James Gunn reboot and what comes after.
I think there's a lot of disconnect between the studio and James Gunn and the media. I feel like if Gal Gadot was, and it's very possible, like she might have just been, talking out of her backside or whatever. But like, I still think that if those rumors weren't true, James Gunn would have come out and addressed them because he is notorious for doing that. Like anytime someone has made a claim about the DCU, like he's gone onto Twitter or wherever people are commenting on things, Instagram.
This had to be a formal statement from the studio as opposed to James Gunn on no what on her not in Wonder Woman 3 supposedly.
So yeah, but no, I mean, no one's saying exactly what the source was of that comment, but I like I said, I feel like if this were 100% true, James Gunn would have come out and said something about it.
Well, again, just very very sad. It just if that's the case, just a kind of disconnect that there is. But as the reports are out there that are saying that's not going to be the case. But yes, nothing direct from Gunn, which is weird because Gunn has been very direct on social media. Anytime somebody comes up with a question or thoughts on the future of the DC universe, and he just says yay or nay that's going not or is going to happen in regards to that. So
Yeah.
again, it's all citing sources and things of that nature. So we'll see what comes to fruition on that for Wonder Woman 3. But she does have a movie that's out on Netflix, Heart of Stone. The critics are usually calling it, from what I'm seeing from most of them, a generic action picture, which seems to be the case
Uh,
for most of the Netflix movies these days,
right.
either
Right.
generic action or generic comedy, or even a little like a light rom-com fare. What happened, I think around 2019, 2020, around the time of the pandemic, Netflix started to put out some really award-winning stuff. What happened?
Well, let me ask you this. Were they putting out award-winning stuff or did it seem like it was award-winning because there's nothing else to watch at the time?
Could have been. I know that They also went on a spending spree. They also bought a lot of
Yes.
movies that, and some of
Yes.
those were those acclaimed movies. So
Yeah, they absolutely did. But okay, does anyone really go to Netflix though to watch critically acclaimed films? Like, I go to Netflix to watch things because like I don't have anything better to do, and most of the time I don't regret what I've watched. Sometimes I do, but most of the time I just like, oh yeah, I'm paying $15 a month for this. It's kind of like, yeah, all right.
I watched Star Trek Into Darkness last night on Netflix, so I can't really say, you know, I always love reliving that movie. I always think that movie's pretty solid and stands up on its own. Yeah, it does have some story things that like you go and makes you scratch your head at times, but otherwise, I thought it was a pretty good movie and holds up strong to the original Star Trek reboot from J.J. Abrams. But
Oh, for sure.
yeah, and I go to Netflix, so I want to watch. I know Heats. I want to go relive Heat. I just watched Starship Troopers again for the 90th time, which I love so much. So yeah, they do have some good movies. I don't watch their original movies too much unless I hear really good buzz about it. So Heart of Stone and some of the other generic action flicks that they have there, I just don't really go out of my way to go ahead and check it out. But I understand. I get what you mean. Like it's if you don't have anything better to do, then go ahead to Netflix as a default. That's so funny because it's
Ye
true. Everybody does that now these days.
Right, right, and as a parent of 4 kids, like, I am actually really glad that we did not cancel Netflix because, like, my 2 youngest will watch the Baby Shark Space Adventure over and over and over, and, I love them, but, like, when I'm cooking dinner, like, I will just turn that movie on for them while I cook dinner, and I don't have to worry about, what they're doing because they just will be stuck to I'm not an iPad parent by any stretch of the imagination, but it just keeps them occupied for, like, 30 minutes while I cook dinner for everybody.
Not too shabby at all. But before we head to the break, my friend, the last thing I wanted to ask you is the Dracula genre dead? Because Renfield, which again was a terrible movie outside of the conversations between Nick Cage and the actor playing Renfield himself. That dynamic I think worked well, but the rest of the movie was just absolutely terrible beyond all description. And then the movie this week that came out, The Last Voyage of the Dementor, that tanked hard at the box office, only getting $6.5 million for the weekend in its initial weekend, which is terrible for a movie that cost about 75 million to make, which is not even going to get that back in its worldwide returns. I just said to you, I didn't even know this movie was coming out until I went to the theater earlier this week to watch Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I had no idea it existed. And it's something that you and I may have just read it off when we were doing our summer movie preview, but I had not seen a trailer for this movie at all. Your thoughts on this? Is the Dracula movie genre dead on arrival? Is it as dead as he is?
I t that's a tough question because, like nice. No, I think that we
I'm on to
are
suck your blood.
there have been so many, like, bad vampire movies that come out that even if someone were to come along and make, like, a decent Dracula flick, I don't think that people would want to watch it for the same reason I
Nicholas
don't wanna
Holmes. That's right. From
Yeah, yeah, but it's for the same reason, like, I wouldn't wanna I'm having a hard time watching Guardians of the Galaxy, it's just there's been so many things in that genre, which is a shame because, those, like, classic monsters and their original tales are actually, like, really good, and this is supposed to be a prequel to the story of the classic story of Dracula, and, not that I mean, I haven't seen the movie personally, but the trailers look like they're pretty cool. But it also looks like it's the same formula as Alien and The Thing. You have monster, small place, chasing people around. It, it sounded like it had potential, but it's not sounding like people really like it that much. I will tell you though, Guillermo del Toro is doing a movie that's based on the original Mary Shelley's original Frankenstein novel. So if that's good, that could very well like reinvigorate interest in those classic monster stories.
you know what actually did actually give some life to it? Marvel with Werewolf by Night. And that's the
Yeah,
only thing I've seen in the genre that's actually worked over these past few years. But we'll
right.
wait and see, my friend. What are your thoughts out there on the movies taking place this weekend with Barbie dominating again, Oppenheimer coming up in second, TMNT Mutant Mayhem, and Meg 2 The Trench still performing well, and Meg 2 is actually performing well overseas. The Last Voyage of the Dementor, did you actually go and see it, or do you think as well, like we do, that this movie is unfortunately as dead as Dracula? Please let us know, popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Well, before we hit the half hour break, my friend, I just wanted to go ahead and ask you real quick Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I know you're not a Trekkie, and I know I should be talking more about this with Melinda, who is a Star Trek fan galore. But I always wanted to go ahead and approach you on it when it comes to Star Trek because the fact is, I'm trying to get you a little bit more involved. I know Star Trek is a heavy thing. I'm not asking you to go back and watch 50 years, 60 years
My
of
uncle asked me to do that actually a couple years
yeah,
ago.
yeah, because I know you're a completionist, and if I asked you to go, okay, Josh, go ahead. I need you to watch everything from the Star Trek universe. I haven't even watched everything from the Star Trek universe, but when it comes to Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, I do think it's one of the best representations of Star Trek in quite some time. Season two is not quite as evenly great as season one, but it has three episodes which holds itself very well to not only what season one did, but to the rest of Star Trek throughout the years, as really some good stuff with the. I guess the co-op episode where they worked in unison with the folks from their other great show that they have as far as Star Trek Lower Decks. That one actually they got together on a joint episode in Star Trek Strange Worlds. I mentioned on this show before that episode 2, which was a courtroom drama style episode, which I know can bore people really to tears at times. Actually, was a very, very, very excellent one, and just a command performance by the guest attorney who just did an outstanding job in the episode. And then last week's, not this past episode, but last week's episode, which was the first time in history in the Star Trek universe that they dedicated an entire episode to a musical and actually made it sound and made it come off like an actual musical and didn't make a joke of it. It wasn't cop rock. It wasn't anything really bad or embarrassing. It was actually really, really darn good. So I ask you, my friend, I've been asking you now for 2 years to try and at least give any Star Trek show a try. I would tell you to go and get ahead and give Strange New Worlds because it is not catered or tied down to the lore as much as those other shows. It is actually catered more to a general audience. And I think there's any Star Trek show that you would like, if you like sci-fi at all, it would be Strange New Worlds.
I have actually been listening to the PCC Multiverse show, and I've heard you and Melinda talking about it quite a bit, and I am tempted to watch it. Like I did. Yes, yes, I do want to eventually sit down and watch the show. I need
I
to.
think season one is still on YouTube. I'm not 100% sure, but I think season one, for the most part, is on YouTube.
Well, it's on Paramount Plus, right?
Yes, I don't know if you have Paramount Plus or not.
I think I do. I think I forgot to cancel it like 3 months ago. So
There you
yeah.
go. You can watch all the Mission Impossibles as well. So there you go.
Hey, there you, I know. Me and my wife meant to like marathon those, and then we started that like 6 weeks ago. Only watched the first one.
I'm telling you, it's Dead Reckoning is a lot of fun, and I do think it's one of the best movies I've seen so far this year. But it's only a good movie. That tells you this year hasn't been had strong movies, because Barbie, Across the Spider Verse, and Dead Reckoning are the best movies I've seen this year, and they're all good movies in my opinion. Not just like wow, they're just the greatest thing I've ever seen type movies yet. So I've not
Yeah.
seen a killer movie for me as yet, but I thought I've seen some pretty good ones in those three. But I think Star Trek Strange New Worlds is something that you might actually like because, again, it does take stuff from the lore, but doesn't beat you over the head with it. It actually creates a style where it's based off the original series, where it's not just this overarching theme. It actually does an episode. They're doing this. Next episode, they're going somewhere else and doing something else. Next episode is about something else. So you don't need to go ahead and make sure, oh, what do I need to know from this? What do I need to know from that? So I think you would
Yeah.
probably, if any show that you would actually get hooked on with Star Trek, it would be Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna check it out. Give me like 2 weeks, and I'll watch 1 or 2 episodes.
Okay. And like I said, I think, and I will check this now on YouTube to see if Star Trek Strange New Worlds season one is still on it. Because I know that they'd done for their first episode for Star Trek Strange New Worlds season two, they introduced all the season one episodes to YouTube. So if trying to catch up and on that, I'm not sure if it's still on Paramount Plus. So don't quote me on that. I'm still trying to look and see if that's the case. But if that's the case and you would like to go ahead and check it out, if you don't have Paramount Plus, please give it a try. Please do whatever you can to go ahead and get Paramount Plus. Try it free. I think because, like you said, you still have it. A lot of people don't. Paramount Plus does have a lot of options, and you might at least try it free before you go ahead and buy it. That's with all these different streaming outlets, my friend. At least try it free to make sure it's something you'd like.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm convinced. I'm convinced. I will do it.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. I've won you over. He's going to do it. Now I got to get Melinda back in the groove on Star Trek because she's very passionate about Star Trek, and I've told her she's got to get back into it and all that. So we'll see. But what are your thoughts out there on Star Trek Strange New Worlds season 2? Again, not the 100% home run like last season, would I put it on the best of pop culture for 2022? It still may be the best of pop culture for 2023, but it did have some ups and downs a little bit, but the ups were truly up. What are your thoughts out there on Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2? Please let us know. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Well, before the break, my friend, I wanted to ask your thoughts on some video game stuff, which we will talk about more in detail after the break. THQ Nordic had a digital showcase this past week where they were showing off some of their wares. And while many of the titles that you got a chance to see are probably only well known to the gaming community, they're not known really to the large the player out there at large, the general consumer out there at large with what they've got coming up like Recreation or Way of the Hunter or Trine 5, Tempest Rising, Space for Sale, Outcast: A New Beginning, Last Train Home. That Alone in the Dark. That's probably the biggest one that I think the remake for Alone in the Dark is probably the one that probably people know most. But Titan Quest 2, Gothic 1, South Park Snow Day is a new game entirely that's coming out next year. So your thoughts, my friend, they're perceiving themselves and the way they try to go ahead and present themselves to the media is as a AAA top tier publisher. But I think it said it best when the judge in the Xbox versus FTC trial was talking about the major publishers that are out there, the AAA publishers that can produce a AAA hit, and they did not speak of THQ Nordic. I still think THQ Nordic, and we've talked about this before, still has a ways to go before you could put them in that upper echelon of video game publishers.
Yeah, I mean they've made some good games, but nothing you could really say is great. You look
Yeah.
at a game like was I think they did Elex, right? Was one of theirs.
Yes.
Um I
Elex 2 and Elex 1. Yeah, 1. Yes.
Right, and those were like fun and okay RPGs. They were hardly polished. I mean, they hardly looked anything like Elder Scrolls or even a low tier RPG from a AAA publisher. It looked very flawed. So yeah, they put out some good things. Like South Park is always an easy cash grab for them. People play those games. The Last Ronin looks okay, but I would hardly call them a AAA studio because they do so many. There's nothing, you go to like a video game conference, Gamescom, E3, whatever, don't see people going, oh, yes, I can't wait to see what THQ Nordic is working on. Nobody ever says that.
I'll tell you what, though, it's going to be interesting to see if they can finally get that one hit. Because, Josh, you and I both know all it takes is that one massive hit that translates to a larger audience, that gets the everyday consumer talking out there, maybe during Christmas time or during Black Friday or even sometime during the year that can get them talking. They still have not had that marquee hit as of yet, but I feel like they're not for a lack of trying. I understand that they're owned, in part by, what is it, Endeavor, or what other, investment firm is actually
Yeah.
responsible for owning them, and I think like a dozen other video game publishers and smaller companies out there in the video game world. But I think with THQ Nordic, they're like the Netflix in a way, because of video game publishing, because they throw a lot of darts, they try a lot of games to see what sticks with an audience.
Yeah, and you also got to realize that quantity over quality is never a working formula. I mean, look at some of these bigger studios out there, Activision, Square, like they'll spend 2 to 3 years working on one title.
Yes, that's true. Heavy Duty says, I want a racing game that feels like I'm in the car. Well, I'll tell you what, Josh's big hit and big success story, which would be, of course, Forza Motorsport. I know he's looking forward to later this year when that comes out. That is not going to be the Forza Horizon arcade style. That's going to be the Forza Motorsport, more of the simulation. So you may want to go ahead and try that. But you would probably, if you want the true, like you're in the car, you might have to go VR in Gran Turismo or something like
Or
that.
iRacing is actually what a lot of people are doing now. Those are the ones
Good
where you,
point.
you don't yeah, you don't play on the controller, you actually play, you have your
Yes.
peripherals, you have your screens and your steering
Yep.
wheel and your shifter and all that. Yeah, iRacing is where it's at.
And then you put the VR glasses on for even more immersion as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything happening with GTA anymore? Well, they're still making a killing on GTA Online, but I would probably say next year, I'm guessing, or maybe even 2025, they will announce GTA 6. They're not in any hurry because GTA for them is a 7 to 10 year, well, actually more like 10-year investment as far as it being
Yeah.
relevant. So,
So they said it was 2 years ago, someone at Rockstar let slip that they were working on the next Grand Theft Auto, but he said, "The soonest you are going to see or hear anything about it will be 2026."
yep, absolutely. So, I will tell you what, though, it's just good to see something in the GTA universe that's going to be there. But we'll talk about more 2K issues, because 2K, never let it be said 2K is going to want to try and give something away for free, because they won't. We'll talk about that here in a sec. But what are your thoughts out there on what's going on with THQ Nordic? Are you excited for any of the games that was recently announced? I know the South Park game that's coming to 2024, that multiplayer game, that might be something I think a lot of people could be interested in if it comes out and it's done well. That could be, Josh, the game that everybody is talking about that might put or vault THQ Nordic into a different stratosphere. So we'll see. South Park games have been critically hailed, but done only okay on a platform as far as selling wise. So your thoughts on possibly South Park Snow Day actually being that game next year that puts them over the top?
It's gonna be the same thing as, like, Stick of Destiny or Stick of Truth. I forget what the last game was called, but it's gonna be a game that people find fun, yeah, but we're gonna find it on sale pretty quick, like, we'll see a price drop pretty fast. Like I said, South Park games are good cash grabs, but, if THQ Nordic really wants to make it, they need to work on, like, a franchise. They need something that people will play and it'll leave them clamoring for a sequel.
We'll see what happens, though. But yes, South Park Snow Day is coming out, scheduled next year. We'll see what time of the year is coming out. But yeah, they've only put a 2024 date on it. So we'll see what happens. Are we into Sims, simulation games? It depends. Sometimes some building games might interest me, but Sim City is really something that's just hard for me to stay with and be patient enough to. I'm more of an action-oriented individual. Josh, have any sim games really stuck out in your mind recently?
So I do enjoy the Civilization games, but and then I remember enjoying SimCity back in the day, but I haven't really played many of them for a while.
Well, I will tell you though, it's no longer can be called a sim, but Baldur's Gate 3 is killing it. Our own Jamie Sweet from Lakers Fast Break, who was on the show earlier this month, spoke glowingly of it, and it's become a big hit, a really under the radar hit in a lot of ways for the PC audience out there, and now coming to consoles, at least on PS3, excuse me, PS5, but yet to come out on Xbox because there's still some technical glitches that they need to work out. But yeah, really done well on PC. It's been a big hit for them. Of course, Diablo 4, that's not no longer a simulation like it once was, but yeah, simulation games, SimCity, and all that. It used to be all the rage. It's very hard in this action-oriented world of video gaming. I don't see it happening again for SimCity anytime soon.
You know what I used to love with SimCity? I'm sorry, this is a side tangent here, but I used to love building my city, and then they had options where you could like destroy it, whether through like a UFO invasion or a natural disaster. So, you did all that, but then it felt so satisfying to like release alien spacecrafts on the city and just watch it destroy everything.
High Octane's asking, what's a franchise that needs to be revived? I said BioShock right off the top of my head.
Yeah, BioShock would be cool. I always so there's an Xbox game called Advent Rising, and that was
That was the
one
one
that
that
they
gave
had.
away $1 million, supposedly.
Yeah, well, that was the one they had like huge plans, or like it's gonna be, we're gonna make a franchise out of this and blah blah blah, and they totally set it up like it ends on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I would love to go back to that world. From what I understand, though, that one actually like paved the way for Mass Effect. So I guess without that, we wouldn't have Mass Effect. But still, I would love to go back to that world.
I remember Too Human having those same aspirations as well, and then
Oh, and
unfortunately,
that was yeah, that was not a fun game. I
yes.
wanted to like it, so I've never bought a game that I wanted to enjoy more than that, and I just couldn't enjoy it.
I'm sure there is a pandemic game or something based off that, probably sometime in the near future to remind us of the pandemic. You
And you have
probably
to
can
buy
find
toilet
some,
paper.
yeah, buy toilet paper. Might would even find that on Steam if you want, if you're a PC player. So, I will say, Endorphin says that they really enjoy the FIFA franchise. Well, before we go ahead and hit the 45-minute break, I want to go ahead and then and ask you, Madden 24 comes out this week, my friend. It's again the same old, same old. The advanced word on it is pretty good so far, but nothing great as always. It just when you have a sports game like Madden that seems very stuck and set in its ways, plus also the fact that again it's based and mired now in today's sports games, mired in so many microtransactions. Madden is just no longer the same experience you once had in the early 2000s and in the 1990s.
Yeah, I keep wondering like when somebody is going to come out and make a new football game that's exists outside of the Madden franchise. I know that the NFL has like an exclusive contract, I think, with EA, but man, it would be great
I
to.
think sometime soon, like Star Wars, you're gonna see them break it up and allow everybody to go ahead and get a shot at it. I mean, FIFA, Endorphin says you like the FIFA franchise. FIFA is no longer part of EA. FIFA is going to make its own video
Yeah,
game, and
that's right.
EA's got like Soccer FC or something like that. They're doing their own deal with their own people that they're making a deal with, their own teams that they're making a deal with. FIFA's going to make their own game. I have a feeling, like you said, it's going to be to the point where at some point it's going to go back to where it was like in the early to mid 2000s, where you had 2K, Microsoft, and some other uh, video game publishers out there making their own version of an NFL game.
Yeah, and honestly, like diversity, that's what we need in these sporting games. Like it gets really old every year only being able to play one or two different types of sports games. Like I miss having NFL Fever and NBA Inside Drive. Like those games were they had things in them that kind of made them stand above, those just generic football, basketball, whatever types of games. I miss those days. I want that to come back because I have no interest in playing Madden. Like I jumped on NHL 2000, whatever the last NHL was for a few minutes a couple weeks ago, and it was cool, but it's just not. It wasn't amazing. It's just what bring something new to the table, and maybe I'll be more interested in it.
I have a feeling the NFL may find greener pastures away from exclusive licensing, and
Hmm.
that's something that they may revisit. And I hope that they revisit because it only made the product better when you had NFL Fever, NFL 2K, you had more NFL related games that were coming out that were right in that early to mid 2000 timeframe, along with Madden. It seemed to be that competition made the product better. Once Madden became the only game in town, pardon the pun, it seems like it just basically just go with the quality of it on a year to year basis seemed to go start to go downhill.
It's endorphin. To answer your question, it's easier. Like NFL is a very like secure. Like they will only, they only want to license to one company. Whereas like NBA, they'll license to EA and 2K. Like it's
I think
easier
they
to
only have
get.
2K right now.
Oh, do they? Okay, because I know
I,
that it's easier. From what I understand, it's easier to get licensing from, NHL, NBA, but like NFL is almost impossible to get any type of licensing
I
for.
think they all have exclusive licensing at this point. I think it's something that once these contracts start to come up later this decade, I think that you're probably going to see them go back and revert to the way as far as shared licensing because also as well, it's very expensive for EA and 2K to keep on putting out the 100 to 200 to whatever $1 million that they have to go ahead to in order to buy this exclusive licensing each and every time
And
out because all it takes
they're
is
the
one
same
dud.
games every year. Yeah.
Yeah. So, actually, are there any wrestling games out now worth checking out? Well, I do have a review of AEW's Fight Forever. I gave that a solid rating. If you want to check that out, popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. I think gave that a solid 7 out of 10. It's not perfect, but it's a fun time. It's a fun game. It's a competitor to 2K. But then again, the WWE, same thing. They have an exclusive license with 2K. And at what point do you say to yourself, maybe it's probably best if I go ahead and license this out to several different publishers as opposed to one? I mean, Star Wars is reaping the benefits now from having several different publishers produce games, not just EA, Ubisoft. There's several others now producing games in the Star Wars realm and IP once the EA contract came up. So, Josh, we're seeing it with Jedi Survivor, but we're also going to see next year with Ubisoft's game that's going to be coming out, the Star Wars universe. They did something smart and having to go ahead and make it available to so many different publishers now.
Yeah, exactly. And EA is they would be foolish to like say like, "Oh, hey, either you go with us or we're not making a Star Wars game for you." Like that would be foolish of them because Star Wars is such a big franchise. So, their backs were against the wall in that case. So it's nice to be able to play something from EA and then play something from another company. Like, it's nice to have different perspectives on the pop culture properties that we love.
Absolutely. Are correct. Very much correct. Here's a Joe. We need more competition in the gaming industry. These exclusive contracts need to start going away, but we'll see what happens. But I want to hear your thoughts out there on exactly everything that you would like to see as far as some new options in the world of sports games because Madden, yet again, is coming out with Madden 24 coming out later this week. We want to hear your thoughts on if there should be a breakup as far as the NFL allowing themselves to go ahead and get themselves into another few options for other different publishers out there. Do you like it the way it once was in the early to mid 2000s? Do you see the that fact that FIFA is now creating its own game and breaking away from EA as a better option for them? We want to hear your thoughts on all these sports games and where do you think it's going to go in the future? Please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. Just cannot thank you enough, as always, for being a part of it. But speaking of 2K, before we head on out, I thought I'd touch on this. The anger and angst amongst the community is that Red Dead Redemption is going to be coming to PlayStation 4 and also as well Nintendo Switch. The PlayStation 4 version you can play on the disc version of PlayStation 5. That's all, and also the actual digital download of it. It's going to be a port. It's not a remake. It's not a remaster. It's just a port of the original PS3 Xbox 360 version that came out, what, 10? 13 years ago. Was it 2011, 2012? I think. As far as Red Dead Redemption, the original one.
Yeah, it's 2011, I wanna say, because I was still working at Best Buy when that came out.
Yeah. So, my friend, that version that came out at Best Buy, that exact version is going to be put here in the next few days on PlayStation 4. You'll be able to play it on your PS5, and then, of course, Nintendo Switch as well, with no upgrades. Just throwing it out there. They're just porting it out there. There's no resolution upgrades. There's no frame rate upgrades. There's no nothing added in as far as adventures. There's no more characterization or customization put in there. Nothing. But 2K wants you to pay $50 for it, my friend, on the PlayStation 4/5 and the Nintendo Switch. Your thoughts? This has got the ire of the gaming community up in arms in regards to having to spend $50 on a port of Red Dead Redemption. Your thoughts on that, my friend? It's a great game, but playing an exact port, which I could go and pick up at Retro City Games, one of our fine sponsors, for $10, that doesn't seem very appealing to me.
Yeah, hold that thought for a second. Samir, to your you made a good point. I'm curious what's gonna happen to those servers once FIFA has a new game come out. Heavy duty, I'm playing Final Fantasy 16 right now. Gerald, back to your question. I think that if it's free, I mean not free, if it doesn't cost a company that much money to put out a game like that, I don't see why not. It is point. I understand why people are frustrated, but like I got Brian from the Super BS Games Cast. Like he has gone out and he has played or he bought a Steam Deck and he's just rebuying all these games that he's owned all these years on multiple different consoles just to have them on his Steam Deck. So there is definitely a market out there for them. But I guess like what I'm wondering is how much did it cost them to port these games, and will that cost ultimately be paid back and profitable for them?
That's the thing, though. That just to me is ridiculous. Okay, I'm gonna charge you, Josh, $50 to replay a game you might have played 13 years ago, I think, or 12
Right.
years ago, and we haven't made any improvements on it. And oh, by the way, since you and I are probably leaning, and you're an unabashed, I'm a leaning Xbox fanboy. If I could just go walk into right now, go to Retro City Games. I don't know how much they're selling it for, but I'm just saying $10 as far as for an old copy of Red Dead Redemption. I could go ahead and pop it on my Xbox Series X. I'm going to say the Series X. I have the Series X, but if you have the Series X, you can pop it in that Series X and you could get 4K 60 frames per second, which the game never absolutely ran on in its heyday, and that actually could do an automatic upgrade. How frustrating is it for someone out there that has to go ahead and pay on the PlayStation and Nintendo side so much money for a port that's not any better, yet I could go as an Xbox owner and get something much more better than what it was originally for a much lesser price?
Yeah, I yes. If you are, however, so I understand porting it to the Nintendo, right? But I don't get the PS4 because on Nintendo, say you're a Nintendo fanboy, right? Like you and I like the Xbox and we'll play stuff on PlayStation, but the Switch is really the first Nintendo console I've ever actually owned, outside the handheld stuff. But there are people who will only buy Nintendo stuff and they're like, "Oh, hey, I wish I could play Red Dead at some point." And now they have the opportunity to. So I understand putting it out on that console. I don't get putting it out on the PS4. Like I don't foresee anybody paying to play that unless they're like, "Oh, hey, I would love to sit down and play Red Dead again." It's like Skyrim, right? Like we didn't think people would buy that game as many times as it was released, but every time it was put out, somebody bought some copies of it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have kept putting new versions of it out.
Well, Lifted, you asked, is Nintendo struggling or solid right now? They're not having the same sales they once did. I mean, the Nintendo Switch has sold over 100 million units already. I mean, the market for them has already been saturated. A lot of people are anticipating a Nintendo Switch Pro or Nintendo Switch 2 to come out. sometime next year. There's been a lot of hints, both from Nintendo and media reports, saying that there will be something coming out during that year. But they're still the number two selling console in the country as we speak right now. Plus the fact that Josh, I'll tell you, Tears of the Kingdom has been selling extremely well. So software, when it concerns Mario and Zelda, has been still selling extremely well. The Super Mario RPG that's coming out later this year and Pokemon all will sell still well on that console. That's why I think that 2K, even in the latter stages of the Nintendo Switch's lifespan, my friend, is still trying to capitalize on people's nostalgia and people wanting to go ahead and play something different once they're done with Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. In Tears of the Kingdom too, like those games have a lot of replayability on them, so I think they're still banking on people going back and playing that and picking up more copies during the holidays and all that. But High Octane, the PS, I don't know, Gerald, would you say the PS5 has been the success that everybody was saying it would be? I think that I mean, just looking at the
I think under
scarcity
the
of it.
circumstances, I think under the
Okay.
circumstances, I think that had we not had the coronavirus, we wouldn't have had the shortage of PS5s during the first years, the first 3 years of its cycle, first 2 years of its cycle, the shortages that you and I both experienced with the
Mhm.
PlayStation 5. I think that would have been much more prevalent, would have been much more out there. And they might be exceeding the PlayStation 4 in sales. They're actually slightly under overall. They're not transitioning as fast as the PlayStation 4 was. I don't think they'll ever reach what the PlayStation 4. I'd say I'm not going to put it out of reach, but I'm going to say probably not. They won't reach the sales of PlayStation 4 lifetime. That's partly because of two things: the supply shortage in its first couple of years, plus the fact that it's had some good first party games, Josh, but not as many as the PlayStation 4 did during its same time span.
Oh, absolutely. And like you had mentioned with the coronavirus, like it did put a lot of development cycles behind for studios. So we didn't see I think it's this year we're finally seeing what the PlayStation 5 is capable of in terms of sales and audience. And also like we had a hard time knowing how many of these sales were true sales and how many were just console scalpers. So that like I said, now I think we're finally going to be able to tell like who is going to dominate the console race. um yeah, I
Now,
would agree with you on the Games Pass being the best, Xbox being the best value because of Games Pass.
if you had, let's say, a budget of $600, that's your budget. You could get an
Right.
Xbox Series X and then a year worth of Games Pass. And each and every month, that would get you access to 100 to what, 150 games each and every month. That's
Right.
something PlayStation 5 cannot give you. For $600 on PlayStation 5, you would get the PlayStation 5 and two games, three games
Yeah.
max. That's it. So you tell me 3 games, 100 games, 3 games, 100 games. So you
Yeah,
tell me
this
which one's a better value.
yeah, definitely the 100 games, but also, like I've said before, like I play a lot of things on my PlayStation. I'm playing Final Fantasy 16 on it right now, but I what I've always admired about Xbox is that they care a lot about their customer base. And that's something that Sony has yet to prove to me that they reciprocate. So, I think that Xbox is definitely a better value all around. But then, you do have those exclusive titles. You're like, oh man, I really want to play that. So maybe I do go out and buy one.
I mean, PlayStation 5 has a better library. I'm not going to tell you differently on that, but to get the chance to be able to have for a value, because most people I know are still on a budget.
Yeah.
Most people I know that only has so much as far as they can spend on a monthly basis. And to have a chance to play or download up to 100 different games for 15, what, $17 now? It's like $17 a month. I think that's a much better value and much better opportunity to have. Yes, PlayStation 5, it does have better options as far as first party games, especially from a narrative, especially from a having those options available to you as far as quality first party games. But as far as games overall, as far as whether they're third party or first party, plus the fact you with the Games Pass, you get first party games from Xbox day one. as
Mhm.
opposed to spending $70 on like Starfield coming out next month. I am waiting. I am itching to go ahead and play Starfield. That I cannot. I get that day one on Games Pass. I don't. I actually pay $70 extra if I was on PlayStation 5.
Yeah, and I one thing that PlayStation does do really well though, I love that their install times are so fast. Where you go to, Xbox, unless you have, really, really fast internet, you're gonna be sitting there for 2 or 3 hours waiting for the game to install. Whereas PlayStation doesn't matter what type of internet you have, because the majority of the game is on the disc, so it will take maybe 45 minutes to an hour to install.
Endorphin saying, not sure why Netflix for video games hasn't really succeeded yet. Xbox Games Pass, the goal is not just to sell consoles. The goal for them is just for the Games Pass. That is their goal, is to become the Netflix for video game. They have about 25 to 30 million subscribers at this point in time. It's, which again, if you put it in the context of things, it's not as huge as they would like. But the fact that they will hopefully, as their future goes forward, Josh, be able to access it, whether you're on a computer, whether you're on a television, a smart television, whether you're on your mobile, or whether you're on your Xbox gaming console, once that fully gets realized and fully gets trained, be able to fluent across all those platforms, that will clearly give it an advantage over what PlayStation 5 or PlayStation or Nintendo wants to offer you as a consumer.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah,
Not
we
quite
we
there yet. Not quite there yet.
not quite there yet, but I mean the groundwork has been put out, and they're working towards making gaming more accessible by turning the Xbox into just a TV app. So I think it's only a matter of time before we see it get there.
We'll see. How's Apple Arcades in terms of value, library, etc.? You said you still have Apple Arcade. I think you mentioned that on the last time we were together. What are your thoughts as Apple? What are your thoughts are? What are your thoughts on Apple Arcades as far as the value, the library? What are your thoughts on it? Is it a good value for the consumer?
I have a so I had the free preview at first, so like I got it and I started playing a few things. The stuff that's exclusive is fun. I have a hard time playing mobile games because I don't like have not being able to feel the joysticks when I play them. So I'll usually plug a controller in. If you're like that, yeah, it's perfect. But what's happening now is more and more of the games they're putting out are also available on other platforms. So at that point, is it really worth the money to keep Apple Arcade if you're not playing anything that's
Good
exclusive
point.
to it, or do you just go play it on a console?
Good point indeed. Great
Because
conversation,
it's
sir.
15 bucks a month.
Yeah, that's not a good deal at all, in my opinion, compared to what you can do, especially with Xbox Games Pass. Only be a couple of dollars more, and you get AAA games, you get high quality indie games, you get highly rated games from recent or even early past, or even in the old archives that they bring out as well. So yeah, I'd say the best values for someone on the budget, someone who will only give $500 to $600, or even if they get the Xbox Series S at under $300, just spending $100 more on a year of Games Pass might be worth it for them. So we'll wait and see as far as how the landscape of the console industry and gaming industry shapes out. But what are your thoughts out there on the Red Dead Redemption controversy? Please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Is Nintendo still making the Game Boy? No. And what are my options for a handheld gaming device? That would be the Nintendo Switch or Steam Deck. Steam Deck is a very powerful unit for about $700. So that's something, if you're into PC gaming, you could look at. I know that PlayStation is coming up with their own handheld, but it's not going to be its own gaming system. It's only going to just choose to emulate the PlayStation 5 games on its actual handheld console. So it's kind of like a console. It's not like it's kind of not kind of like it. It's going to be. It's not the Vita where it was own system. It's actually something a little different. So I don't know if that's going to be something you're interested in. Of course, also as well, again, the Nintendo Switch, you can take it wherever you want to. But Josh, when was the last time you took the Switch on the road, my friend?
I took it with us to Oklahoma a few weeks back, but I never turned it on. Like I took it because I expected to be able to play it, but I didn't have time. I have heard
Uh,
great things about the Steam Deck, though.
yeah, there you go. Steam Deck, there you go. But I love the Vita. I had a Vita. It was just not supported well by PlayStation. PlayStation, if it doesn't sell well, they don't support it. You've seen it. They've had so many peripherals that they've come out with over the years that if they don't like it, they don't doesn't sell well right off the bat. Like PSVR 2 right now, they won't support it and they won't stick with it, and they just put it to the side, and there you go. So that's PlayStation for you. But again, they have the best first party games around. So definitely, if you're interested in PlayStation 5, I can't blame you. High Octane says the iPhone needs to be better supported for Apple Arcade. Well, there you go. That's something as well. But I'm a Samsung guy, so y'all have to go ahead and hear about your pain on that one, Josh. So,
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree. I would love to see more exclusives, make it worth paying for. But, right now I finished playing Fantasian, and that was an excellent game, but there has yet to be something else to come out on there that's made me want to keep the subscription going.
so before we head on out, my friend, I wanted to go ahead and remember one last great thing, a 50th anniversary of the last full feature ever for the great martial artist Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon. It's getting or it has gotten a 4K high res. See, they actually went to the trouble of updating that to 4K, and you see what 2K is doing in regards to not even doing a thing when they're just porting it on their game. So, Enter the Dragon, 50 years. They're actually showcasing it. If you're around a major city, you might want to check your movie theater listings because it is playing in a special engagement on Wednesday. It was also playing the night we're on this on Sunday as well. But Wednesday, to celebrate the 50th anniversary, they are playing it in selected theaters around the country. Your thoughts on the 50th anniversary? They're also releasing it as I think, a Blu-ray and a 4K disc as well. So, your thoughts, my friend, on a 4K specialized realization of the last full featured movie for Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon?
Okay, I love Bruce Lee. I love Enter the Dragon. I've had it on just about every, video platform I've been able to buy it on. I don't think I need it on 4K. It's not technologically advanced to merit buying it on 4K. Am I wrong about that?
I don't know. I saw the trailer of it on YouTube. Looks pretty sharp, my friend. The
Does
colors,
it?
to quote a Josh quote, the colors pop.
All right, well, maybe I'll have to check the trailer out. I do love the movie, and I love the enduring legacy that the movie has had, and just the impact on pop culture it's had. I mean, you watch any type of anime, there's a Bruce Lee stereotype in there. You watch any type of film that has martial arts in it. There's some sort of reference to Bruce Lee. I don't. It has had a huge cultural footprint on not just the genre, but just on film in general, action movies especially.
I'll tell you what, I don't think I'm going to be making it to the theater on Wednesday, which I'm really sad about because again, I'd love to see. I've never seen it in the theaters. Obviously, I've seen it on television and I've seen it on DVD. So, if you do get a chance, please go ahead and take the opportunity to go ahead and check out Enter the Dragon on its 50th anniversary. It is the lasting legacy of Bruce Lee. I probably on Wednesday, if I can remind myself, I will go ahead and wear my Bruce Lee shirt as a tribute to Bruce Lee on that day. So we want to hear your thoughts on the 50th anniversary of Enter the Dragon. Please let us know. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. Any last thoughts, Mr. Happy Hoarder Collectible, before we head on out?
No, not really. Just keep checking the website. Got some new Pokemon cards going up and new Funko Pops almost every week. So check it out, and we'll be out at Colossal Con in Round Rock, Texas next week. And then from that point on, I think it's just maybe a few more conventions left for the year. Just follow our Facebook page.
Okay. Last story, which will not be part of our radio feed, I guess, because it's going to be too long to say. But Josh and I, we met
Yeah, I had some
because,
brisket.
yes, he did have some brisket. Josh and I met when we were both going to school at National University. We had the same teachers, we had the same classes, and it just got to the point where he said he had an interest in video games and comic books, comic book characters, Spider-Man in particular. and I was transitioning out of doing just video game centric podcasts. And I wanted to do something deeper and richer. And since we were always on the video game show talking about movies and pop culture, I figured I'd go ahead and start, looking into doing a radio show based on pop culture. And Josh seemed into it. I proposed it to him. And my gosh, man, 7 years later, look what's happened.
The rest is legend. And Gerald copied my homework all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes. Digitally. I don't know how we could do that, but digitally, yes, we did. Copy and
digitally.
paste.
And
Copy and paste.
he threatened to steal my lunch money through Venmo if I didn't. So
Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely. That sounds like a Gerald thing to do. But we both are graduates of National University, which we're very proud to say, even though we had some really good teachers and some teachers that were, I don't know, kind of out there,
we could
to say
say
the
that
least.
now, though. It's been a long time.
It's been
I
a long
feel
time.
okay saying that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Gerald is a bigger bully than Joe Soro. I don't think anyone could be a bigger bully than Joe Soro, Blue. He takes pride in that. But watch the Lakers fast break when you do, and we're glad that you do. But thanks so much, everybody, for watching, listening. Go ahead and check us out each and every time out around the world on radio, and of course, wherever you get your podcasts. So for Josh, the great Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. No, he's not. He's actually more into hockey than he is NBA Southern, but
I
that's okay.
was a huge Lakers fan at one point, though. Okay. So
He's a Kings fan, though. He's a Kings fan. I'm no longer a Kings fan. You see, when I left, once the Gold Knights came around, I switched my allegiance. If they won 2 cups, I figured they're good because the Kings. I was a long-suffering Kings fan for a while. Yes, and then they won the 2 cups, and it's like, okay, now they're good. Now I can move on. So there you go.
let me find a new team. I
Yeah,
got you. I got you.
and plus that's such a great story. Golden Knights, they won right away. Everybody embraced it, especially after the shooting, and yeah, it embraced the city. Everybody got together. It's a good story. So,
Yeah.
Endorphin says, "Stay hydrated out there, my friend. Vegas was hot today." Endorphin, it's actually hot every single day here in Vegas. But yeah, 100 degrees, and it was actually cloudy, and it sprinkled in certain parts of the city today. So I'll tell you what, though. It's great to have you here. Thanks so much to a great crowd. Looking forward to having you on more as far as in the chat. Looking forward to hearing more stuff there. And then also Lakers Fast Break, which I know most of you are already on with me every single day as well. So it's greatly appreciated. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great